Believe it or not, I'm not into following trends. Brands all end up looking and sounding the same, and consumers, well, they're swimming in a sea of sameness. What I do look for are signals. Consumers are talking, engaging, and questioning what's going on in the world, and I want to be listening to that. So this trends report is about cutting through the noise, providing a catalyst for your brand to understand what your customers care about the most. Hi, my name is Mel Hamilton. I'm a strategist, a creative, and a designer. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen lots of change in technology, in marketing, in the way that we build brands. So I'm sharing with you what I've learned over the years and what I think is most relevant today. Modern businesses require volume, variety, and velocity of content. So I'm going to show you a framework that I use to cut out the steps so that you can get to the value propositions, the key messaging, the creative, and the copy that you require in your performance marketing a lot quicker and in a way that actually lands for your consumer. This reporting framework is a quick addition to everywhere else that you're staying in touch with what your customers care about. So you can add it to your analysis of reviews, customer support tickets, engagement on social media. I'm going to take you through the AI prompts that I use as a creative strategist and a researcher so that you can do the same. And just a warning, this is not to replace the strategist in your business. I'm using AI really as a research assistant to do a lot of the analysis of large amounts of data. So that's where we really make the gains here. But when it comes to the critical thinking, whether the answers or the output is something that actually aligns with you and your business, you need to make that call ultimately. And to really just speed up a process that traditionally a lot of businesses might outsource, when we need to kind of keep up velocity, it is really handy to have something like this tool to be able to keep your finger on the pulse, week to week or every month. For the marketers and the brand builders in your business, this will help them keep in touch with what matters most to your customers. I'm going to share with you my methodology. Please feel free to make it your own. I'll leave a link in the description so that you can download the AI prompts. Just a caveat, I developed this methodology in late 2025 and I've been running at speed, so I haven't had a chance to convert it into something like a Claude skill. But please let me know in the comments if you do. I want to hear about all the builds that you're making to this approach. Okay, let's get started. In today's demo, I'm going to run through a beauty skincare example. Okay, so the setup today, I am using Google Gemini Pro. I've actually been using Gemini because of the internet search data that Google just naturally has collected over decades. And it also provides me agentic queries. You can plug in whatever inputs and use a different model for the purposes of understanding what consumers are engaging with on the internet, what questions they're asking, where those tension points are. I'm happy to use Google Gemini for that purpose. Okay, I'm getting sick of holding this microphone. Who decided we have to hold these things when they have a clip? I'm just going to pop that on. Before I jump into what these prompts are, let's look at a finished example. I tend to keep this on Notion. I find that it's easy to reference later, especially if the team are using something like Claude. You've got the connectors there. Basically, this is an example for beauty and skincare, which we're going to go through today, and a little bit of a summary for whoever's reading it at the other end to understand the methodology behind this. So essentially, we're going to produce a trending topics matrix or a table similar to this, and it will be accompanied by a visualization and, of course, a kind of a summary of those trends. That's using the combined data from web search queries and LLM queries, so agents. And then we've got more of a traditional, what are people searching on the traditional web? I find that these are more of those kind of mass terms, top of the bell curve. People have already been onto this topic for a long time. So what you'll notice here, if I just open this up, is that we're doing a search for the top 20, but it's actually the top 12 in terms of the highest volume. What I've added to that is 8 growth topics. So I kind of split this query up so that it gives me some high volume terms. So in a particular time range. And it's also giving me these growth topics, which I find really interesting. So these are, in a, say, 2-week window. These are fast moving topics that are growing really fast. And in total, we have a top 20 list, which I think is enough information for the team to handle. And within the trending topics matrix, what I love is that we get the kind of data to back up things like search volume size, the growth over in this case, a 2-week period. We can also compare that against the growth over a 6-month period. I put in a niche index. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how kind of mass and broadly known is this topic versus how niche and unique is it? And we have a year-on-year multiplier growth intensity. It also provides a strategic summary, so it gives you a little point of focus. And the last column, and you can add more columns to this, is really interesting. What I like to do is put in actual verbatim queries from that source data. In this case, it's combining web search data with agentic queries. Top, middle, and bottom of funnel. So actual verbatim questions that come in. And that really helps you kind of cut out those steps, and you can take that and start producing interesting value propositions or hooks, or start writing topically about some point of conversation that's happening. So that's a little bit of a walkthrough of the trending topics matrix. What I was going to say is that you can add in extra columns. I like to map this to reviews. You can map them against products, which I think is really cool, as long as you've uploaded all of that context, so all of your product information, and also personas. So if you already have your customer personas, you can just modify what this table is doing and ask it to map the trending topic to the persona, so you can see which audiences amongst your known customers this is most relevant for. So this is going to be quite simple today, but those extra mappings, again, they cut out all of those steps I was referring to earlier. So let's look at the first part of the prompt. I've broken up the prompt into a series of steps because I'm a control freak, but I also want to control the logic that we're asking the LLM to go through to get these answers. And I've tested it so that we get a consistent output each time. And you kind of want to just check the work as you go. Like I said, this is your AI research assistant. It's not replacing your strategist. In this case, you are the strategist. So let's take a look at the prompts, and you'll have access to this from the link in the description. First, we provide context if you don't have that already loaded into your LLM. So this is really about your business, your brand, or your organization. I like to include at least one of these, but the more the better. So strategic goals, your strategic approach this year, or what your business is focused on achieving, and core values. The more context that you can provide, then the quicker you can join the dots in your strategic summaries and those strategic descriptions that you saw in the topics matrix. So just to save you a little bit of time there. In this case, we are researching a specific category. We can research beauty, a particular category like skincare. You can swap out the values that are highlighted here in blue. And also with your target demographic, you may be focusing on a specific gender, age range. In this case here, I've just used an example of Generation Z consumers, and then a location for those consumers and a location for the source information. With the methodology, I like to use a 2-week time window. I feel like that's enough time for something to have started gaining momentum. You might like to condense that and look at the last 3 days or 5 days, or you might like to stretch that out. But I find that looking at the kind of period of 14 days, and we do measure that against a 6-month and a year-on-year growth, is actually really handy. And you can run this report either every 2 weeks, but you could also do that every month if that's kind of the cadence that you're working to. So the objective is to generate a trends report for, in this case, a 14-day period, and insert your full date range there. And we're referring back to the category and the audience. And just FYI, these weightings here, they don't add up to 100%, but this does seem to kind of feel right when I look at the data. And when I've run this report many times over, say, 6 months, I can see that there will certainly be topics that are very mass, well-known, that always just kind of stay in that top topics list. They're kind of high volume and they don't really move. And then you see those growth topics and a few others move in and out of the table every time I run the report. So I feel like this is quite a good mix for that. What we're going to produce is what I showed you earlier. We're going to produce 2 tables at a time. There is a way to produce more, and I can save that for another video. I have a similar approach to looking at YouTube video engagement data, so the kind of plays and the comments, and it will do a similar thing and output trending kind of topics based on those consumer tension points that it's detecting through YouTube. And you can run this again on something like Reddit or on Substack information. Again, the world is your oyster. I'm going to keep it simple because I feel like this is short, sharp and fast, and it gives you a really good starting point if you really haven't done anything like this before. So without further ado, let's pop one of these queries into Gemini. We're going to take the first 2 parts, so the context and the methodology, and we're going to output the trending topics matrix and those 2 tables. So a fresh chat, I'm just going to paste that in here. And this is for the last 2 weeks. And for United States data, so if you're in another time zone, for example, I'm in Australia, you might want to make sure that that final day has a full day's worth of data in your date range. On thinking mode, and let's give that a few minutes. Just need some music so I can keep myself occupied. What do you do while you're waiting these few extra minutes? So you're saving time, but you're also kind of waiting around. So as much as I want to focus on just doing one thing, I find that waiting for my LLM to kind of, run through the prompt and do its thing, that I could be doing something else. So should we be aiming for maximum efficiency? You tell me in the comments. And here it is. Great. Now, what I tend to do is copy the answer and take it into, say, something like a Google Doc first, and I'll go through and clean up the product mappings. I'll make sure that I'm happy with the language and that it feels aligned to what I want to share with the rest of the team. So this is interesting. I'm just looking at the combined web search and LLM query data, and it's bringing up some interesting topics around that beauty skincare space. Yeah. Now, these growth topics, as I mentioned, they're not high volume, but they're high velocity. So the rate in which kind of people are searching them is really, really interesting. And here we've got some verbatim queries as well. So yeah, this is such a shortcut. I love it. Here's table 2. Okay, so the next part is visualizing the data like so. Once we've got our table, our matrix, we're going to turn it into something like this, because to be honest, it's so much easier to be able to visualize the volume based on the bubble size, to understand how intensely people are using agents or agentic search or versus internet search. And the niche index is also kind of outlined on the x-axis. So I find that this is a really nice summary, and if anyone wants to jump into the detail, they can on the Notion page. So let's get the second part of the prompt, which is the trend visualization. My background is in graphic design, so I got a little bit pedantic about how this looks, and it's the best I can do. It's actually a very consistent output, and of course, if you'd like to change the colorways, feel free to do that. So in the same chat, just make sure I've got the right date range. Yeah, it's going to create a bubble chart. Here we go. And if you have a way of visualizing this data, please leave a comment. Let me know. I'm really curious to evolve this methodology. I think the framework is pretty sound, but like I said, I've been using it for the last 6 months and nothing much has changed because I haven't had time to update it very often. But, you know, I can turn this into a clause skill, for example, or we can take it into a live dashboard. There are so many ideas that are in my head, so please share what you've been doing. It's thinking. Nice. So you can see that we've got the web search only chart and then the web search combined with the agentic or the LLM queries chart. So interesting. All right. So you would download those, pop them into whichever way you want to present your report. And then finally, we want to get this really quick list of trending topics and descriptions, and also the strategic summary. You can copy both of these parts of the prompt if you like in one go. I tend to just do this one at a time. Don't know why. Oh, it must be thinking about. Do you notice that little bug? The visualization was actually looping, so I've received more than 2 charts. They're accurate though, so let me look at the prompt and make sure that I clean that up for you. And there you have it. That's my trend reporting methodology. I hope you enjoyed learning about the basics of this framework. I would love to understand how you make this framework your own, how you're plugging it into your workflows to inform your campaign creative, your performance marketing, and also your editorial content. And just to reiterate, this is not about replacing the strategist in your business. You may not even have a creative strategist. So this is about ensuring that your team have a contextual awareness of what consumers are caring about, what your customer is engaged with, those tension points, so that you can answer that as a brand. And if you liked this video, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And come on over to Substack to say hello. I'll see you in the next one.